Weird science is the revolution.
Hello, all you weirdos. Jim here, and yet again, we have some breaking news. And this is kind of crazy, and it's one of those examples of burying the lead, because Marvel sent out an official press email talking about the final showdown of Tombstone and Spider-Man. The actual title, the actual subject line of the email says, "The final showdown with Tombstone begins in Amazing Spider-Man number 58. They do this a lot, where they'll end up sending out a solicit before the actual full solicits come out. They'll give you a cover, a variant cover. Usually it doesn't mean that much, but it does mean a lot. They end up dropping a bomb in this, what seems like a innocuous type of press release, because then it continues. Tombstone's revenge. Spanning multiple issues, Spidey's most brutal battle begins in Amazing Spider-Man number 58. Okay. Like, we're still not getting that much excitement here. I'll tell you that a lot of people who haven't enjoyed Zeb Wells' run, and I mean, there's a lot of them, me included, will say that at least at the beginning of the run, the Tombstone stuff was decent. Now, it kind of got a little bit watered down, convoluted during Gang War, where Tombstone was just kind of hanging, teams up with Spider-Man, and then at the end says, I'm going to get that Spider-Man. I'm going to kill that Spider-Man. And then kind of goes off on his own, not to be seen that much since. So that's kind of a weird play. But again, I think some people say, well, if Zeb Wells is going to do something, might as well do the Tombstone stuff. Again, it was promised at the end of Gang War, so it makes sense. And then there's one last sentence. And this is what should have been the lead, that should have been the title of all of this. It says, hitting stands in September. The visceral issue will kick off the climactic final arc of Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr.'s epic run. Now, I will repeat that, because usually on YouTube itself, but even on the channel here, it's hard to get a lot of good news. There's a lot of bad news. There's a lot of videos, people yelling and screaming and things like that. So when there is good news, it's good to savor it. It's good to, repeat it and get everybody happy, because again, it says, hitting stands in September. The visceral issue will kick off the climactic final arc of Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr.'s epic run. And that is pretty darn good. I mean, this is something that a lot of people have been asking, when is this going to end? When are we going to get something new? Now, granted, when the time comes and we get some announcements, we'll have to play with who do we want to be on the book, what's going on with all of that. But while Zeb Wells has had a really disjointed, kind of crappy run, in my opinion, you could always get worse. So you have to, watch out about how excited that you do get. But for the here and now, at least we can all smile and say that finally we will be getting rid of Zeb Wells. Now, with that, it's going to be kind of a neat play that he's tying up or ending this Tombstone arc, this Tombstone deal. But there's other things that Zeb Wells is working on in this run of his, this run, that I wonder how he is going to end, if he's going to end. And again, this is stuff that's up for discussion, things like that. Things like the living brain / walking brain that's going on right now, the return of the Sinister Six. But one of the big things would be Norman Osborn and how he's tried to redeem himself, then he's back to Goblin, then he's back to redeeming, then Goblin. Is that going to be tied up in this? And then some things like a Ben Reilly chasm, but he has his own solo book coming up. Things like that might be resolved more in that. But still, I'd like to see Zeb Wells do something along the lines with that. Now, I've neglected talking about one big thing, and pretty much the worst thing that Zeb Wells has done. And I'm not talking about sentient mailboxes in the dark web, which to this day drives me insane, right? Sentient mailboxes were part of this. No, what I'm talking about is the worst character in all of comics. It is Paul and Mary Jane. This is a black eye to everybody who's a Spider-Man fan, and just anybody who likes to read in general. I don't even mean comics. Like, Paul is that bad that every time he pops up with his hoodie and his laissez-faire attitude, sitting on the couch all the time, I can't stand the guy. But will that be resolved? Will that end? Will that be? A lot of people were waiting for Paul to become a villain. I say that he was from day one, right? But a lot of people were waiting for that villain turn. It doesn't seem like that will happen, at least now. So the big play will be, what will happen? Will Paul disappear? Like those kids? Will he go back to his stupid dimension that I hope for? Or maybe, just maybe, he'll be hit by, an errant cab driven by me through downtown New York. Like if I see Paul and he's like bending over in a crosswalk, I'm pretending that I accidentally hit the gas. Yeah, pretender, because that's what I'm doing. But do you think that will be resolved? Do you think that he'll end up, getting rid of Paul, keeping Paul, whatever? I have a feeling that Paul will be sticking around. And then other little things like, did York, PA recover from that massive explosion? And the thing is, York, PA is such a crap hole that when that explosion happened, everybody came out of their houses and thought it was a renovation. They thought that things got better. I have a history with York, PA. They're on my list, I will tell you. But again, it's one of those things that we are going to be ending Zeb Wells' run. Whether you loved it, there might be somebody out there, Zeb Wells' mom maybe, or if you hated it like a lot of people, I said, including myself, it's going to end. We got to look forward to maybe changing something for the better. I could throw out some names that I would think might be on it, but the big one I would think would be Chip Zdarsky. I would think that maybe they'll grab him, put him on Spider-Man. It seems like even at DC that his Batman run might be coming to a close, but there's going to be people who wouldn't like that. There's going to be people who may like it. We'll discuss things. And as it gets closer, I'm sure there'll be rumors and all that stuff of who might replace Zeb Wells, but I think that it's prime for somebody to just step in, tell a really good story that gets Spider-Man, that doesn't get caught between the idea of it being dark, but also telling one-line jokes, which made no sense, or doing what was awful events. I mean, even if you consider the death of Miss Marvel, an event in this, but Dark Web, Gang War, these have been hot garbage. They have been really, really bad. And so when we end this whole run, it might be cool to look back, see some of the ups and the many downs, including Paul. Paul is very, very down indeed, but we'll probably end up doing that. But again, let me know what you think. Is it something that is still like, why isn't it happening now? Why is it happening in September? And they haven't said how long it could be. We could end up getting duped so bad here that they then reveal, oh, by the way, this final arc, it's 50 issues. Like, just hang tight. Strap in, strap on, because we're in here for the long run. I would say it's probably about 5 issues. But the way that Amazing Spider-Man comes out multiple times a month or whatnot, I would think that his run will be ending sometime in October. And then we can look forward to what is coming up next. But it's just one of those things. It's kind of it's a weird play. It's weird for me to say a celebration because it's kind of a weird thing to celebrate somebody losing their job. But sometimes you do a bad job. That's what has to happen. You got to lose your job when you do a bad job. And I think he's done pretty much a horrible job at that. So let me know what you think in the comments. And I'll talk to you there. So I will talk to you all later.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.